Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday. I'm super glad that you can join me today. My name's Vicki Whitking, and I am your hostess for this morning. On these Wellness Wednesdays, I just really want us to take a moment to refocus on ourselves and on what we can do to make ourselves feel great, to help our bodies nourish themselves, rejuvenate themselves, to have energy, to have vitality, to be inspired. And that's exactly what the whole rest of the world is not going to allow you to do. The whole rest of the world is going to tell you to go, 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 and do, do, do. And let's stop that nonsense and really pull back and focus on ourselves for just a brief moment. So let's get settled in here. I'd love it if you could turn off your phone, shut the door to your office, or get into a nice, kind of private little bubble space so that you can just really concentrate on what we're going to talk about today. And while you do that, I'm just going to open up my screen. Hello, there I am, and there you are. It's so great to have you with me here today. So I hope that you're having a lovely morning. The sun loves to come in at 10 a.m. and just blast me in the face right here in my office. And that's okay with me because we can all use a little extra sunshine, especially now that we're going into the dark part of the year. And I love this time of year. I think Halloween, Samhain, whatever you want to call it, All Saints Day, there's lots of different ways that we, celebrate the aspects of this time of year. Whatever way you do that is awesome. But really what we're doing is we are settling into the dark part of the year, right? We're welcoming in the darkness. Most of us try to resist the darkness and are like, no, I still like it when it's nice out. I don't want snow. And if you live where I live up here in the Rocky Mountains, it started snowing a few weeks ago, and thankfully because it put out a few fires. And then it's going to keep snowing until sometime in June 2021. We just have that many months where this factor in our weather. If you'll excuse me for just one moment, I'm just going to answer this call really quick because it's my auntie. One second. Hi, Lillian. And she hung up on me. And now I know she's going to call back during my live call, and she's the one person who gets through even when I put my phone on silent and do not disturb. She's the person that gets through. So she's probably calling me about groceries and other things. I may just let that go through. So, because normally I would never. She's got her own special ringtone and everything, so I know it's her when she's calling. And here she's calling again. Just one second. Y'all just take a breather and sip some tea for a second. Hi, Lillian.
Yeah, that nose piece that I wore in my nose that was stuck into the thing that was on my chest, is that supposed to stay there?
Yeah, leave it all hooked up.
Yeah, because it looks like that's where it was. I don't remember ever sticking that in.
It
So
was already like that.
it was already, oh, okay. Alright, so yeah, made it through it with it. Didn't tear anything off.
Oh, well, that's good. Okay, well, I'll come around and pick that up. But I'm in the middle of something. Can I call you back in a little bit?
Oh, yeah, that's okay. I just wanted to know that piece of it.
Yep. No, I think it's fine. It sounds like it worked.
Okay.
Okay, I'll talk to you in a little bit. Bye. So, okay, sorry about that interruption, but life is full of interruptions, and we shouldn't be so rigid that we can't allow for little things coming on. So that's my auntie. She's 84 years old. She lives north of town here, and I for a long time was her yard work person and would help her with her nice big yard and snow removal and lawn mowing and all that stuff. Now her grandson's kind of taking over some of that, but since the whole lockdown and everything, I've been running all of her errands and helping her with some of her health things. So last night she did a little sleep study where she had to hook herself up to a little sleep monitor thing, and I'm also going grocery shopping for her today, so I have to go pick that up and do all those things. And that is part of wellness, right? It's taking care of yourself so that you are able to take care of others. And most of the time, women get this wrong. And it's not your fault, ladies. It's society that tells you that you should give everything to everyone else and let it trickle on back down to you. And we know how well that all happened with the economy in the last 40 years. It didn't work. It's not working for any of us. And you shouldn't use your energy in that way either. You shouldn't give it all away so that you have none left for yourself, because eventually you will crash and burn and not be able to take care of those people who are depending on you. It's just the way it is. So when her calls come in, she called me last night at 10 o'clock too when she was going to bed, and I was already asleep. But that's fine, just being there for someone is half of the battle, right? Okay, thanks for your patience there on that little detour. If it had been anyone else, I would not have picked up that call. All right, so today we are talking about a blessing ritual to honor your ancestors and welcome in abundance, prosperity, protection, whatever you want to call upon. And I'm going to give you a little preface here. This has nothing to do with religion or paganism or anything like that. This is just manifesting good vibes in your home, cultivating a connection with those who have passed, celebrating the season. That's all there is to it. With that said, let's get on to how to do all of this. It's actually really easy, and I'm going to walk you right through it. And you cannot do it wrong. There is no right or wrong here. And if the way I've laid it out for you isn't the way that you want to do it exactly, and you have different ideas, or if you have different things that you want to use in this practice, that's totally fine. Completely up to you. I'm just going to give you a basic framework to go on. So welcoming your ancestors, that's what Halloween is all about. That's where it all started, was with, welcoming in those people who had gone before. And this time of year seems like the perfect time for it, as nature is embracing death. Death is the only thing that we cannot avoid. I think we can even avoid our taxes if we really wanted to. That's been shown by some of our leaders. Not suggesting that you skip out on your taxes, but death, you cannot get away. I don't care how much money you have. I don't care how much power you have or influence, unless you are a vampire. And even for them, they have an expiration factor as well. You can't avoid, that. And we tend to skirt around this subject in our culture. And even if you look at the way that we do celebrate Halloween, it's, funny costumes, sexy costumes, political costumes, superhero costumes. And there's nothing wrong with any of that. But I've always been more of a purist around Halloween, and if it ain't scary, it ain't fun, right? But really what we're doing is we are courting that other side of our existence, because it doesn't just end here. When we are in these bodies, our spirit is with us. When we are not in these bodies, when we give up this body and say, okay, just like an old car, and you're like, take her away, our spirit does not go with that body. Our spirit is independent of our bodies. When our bodies run out, our spirit does not run out. Our spirit can go on indefinitely. It's everlasting. I'm not saying it's eternal, but it's everlasting. And there are differences between those two words, but I'm not going to get into it right now. But your soul will go on. And in that same light, we can connect with the souls that have gone before us. I've definitely done this, where I have connected with family members who have passed over, whether that's at a funeral or just in a meditation or when I'm cooking. I have a lovely, my dinner table in my dining room. I have my grandmother's table. That's one ancestor, and that is a family heirloom. And then I have her sister's tablecloth on it for Halloween, and it's this orange funky tablecloth from like the 70s or something that my Auntie Lillian, who just called, that's her sister, my grandma's sisters, she sent over, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And then I put it on my, in my Halloween bucket because it was orange, and put it on the table. And then I have these maroon napkins, and then my mom gave me, and then I have these kind of orange depression glass candle holders with these really tall old-fashioned looking candlesticks that look like, they're really witchy looking candlesticks, and I just love them, and they're maroon. And when I put it all together on the table, and then there's this big basket for all of my squashes and gourds and things on the table that Andy's mother had given to me, my mother-in-law, and then I use my grandmother-in-law's china, which goes really well on the table too, because it's white with this gold and stuff. So I have all of these layers of grandmother influences or mother influences of my ancestors. My mom hasn't passed away yet, but eventually someday she will be my ancestor. And that doesn't mean just because they're not, that they're still here with us in this world, doesn't mean that you can't honor them right now either, because, her mother and all of that. It's all connected. That's it's a very subtle thing, but it's a very powerful thing. Right there in the middle of our living area. It's just like, boom, you cannot miss it. And that mother energy is always right there for me to connect with, especially when I cook things around this time of year, moving into the holidays and things. We start cooking grandma's favorites and that kind of thing. It's all part of the game. So let's get started. I want you to be able to amp up your autumn so that you really have all of the energy that you need, all the inspiration that you need, and the time that you need to spend on yourself, whether it's 5 minutes or an hour or whatever. So for this little house blessing ritual, you are going to need some cleaning supplies. Now, I usually use like non-toxic, 7th generation, or other kinds of alternative cleaning supplies. Vinegar, baking soda, water, essential oils are great for cleaning, but whatever you have, we're going to be doing a little bit of cleaning here. You're going to need some sage, some incense, or some essential oils to purify the space. You're going to need a large feather or a fan of some kind to get all of the incense or whatever you're using all throughout the house. You're going to need a white candle and then another candle in a color of your choice. It could be anything that you want. And you're also going to be using some salt water, so whatever kind of salt in a spray bottle or in a little bit of a bowl of water. We're going to use that for some purification as well. Then, of course, we're going to bring in some photos of your ancestors or use some other altar offerings. There's another phone call coming in. It said it was a telemarketer, and it's like, nope. And then protection symbols. Anything that means protection to you, also whatever crystals or other sentimental objects that you feel are right for what we are going to be creating here. So the first step is that you need to clean physically. You cannot have bright, vibrant, inspired energy in a cluttered, dirty, awful, unorganized space. So you need to clean your house. Now's the time. Every holiday, clean your house top to bottom. Take care of some of those odd chores or fix up a couple of things that need to be fixed right now. Your house is never going to be perfect and finished unless you have a team of professionals helping you. So it's okay if it's not perfect, but do it, give it a once over and make it feel fresh. Clear that clutter, remove old items from your spaces, your bedroom, your living room, your kitchen, your office, things that are not working, things that are not being used, things that aren't maybe seasonal, or things you don't love anymore. All get rid of it. Just, take this opportunity to clear it out of your space, because it's not doing you any good just taking up it's taking up emotional, mental, and physical space. It's a huge toll on you. Get rid of it. And then I want you to open up your windows and curtains and everything. Let in light and fresh air. I do this every morning. We get up and it's still dark when we get up, so I light some candles and make the breakfast area really nice and warm and cozy. And then as the sun comes up, I go through the house and I open up all of the shades and I open up a few windows on each level of the house so that there's fresh air coming in every day. I don't care what it is outside. If it's 15 below, I'm still going to have it open for a crack for like a half an hour because fresh air is super important, and we're going to need these windows open for when we do the next step. So the next step, we need to cleanse our space energetically. You know how when you've had like a fight or when you're kind of depressed and the house just feels heavy, the space feels heavy, and everybody who comes into it is like, whoa, whatever. We're going to get rid of that. So using your sage bundle or some essential oil or some incense, I want you to light it with a safe fireproof dish underneath and then walk from room to room. You put the dish down and you hold your sage bundle and your feather. Let me grab my props for you. I didn't grab anything. Here's my sage feather right here, or excuse me, my feather. And here's a bundle of sage. So you're going to light your sage with a lighter or a candle. I like those little butane lighters that are just like, because it does take a little bit to get this lit. I have used this already a few times before. That's totally fine. And I also harvested some fresh sage from up in the mountains the last time that I was up riding some horses somewhere, and I was like, ooh, sage. And I shoved that in my backpack. So you're going to light this, and then you're going to use this feather to spread the smoke around in your space so that all that smoke that's coming off the sage, or you can use some essential oils in maybe a spritzer bottle. Do I have a spritzer bottle? Just a little mister bottle of essential oils, and go all the way out throughout the room. And you can use your feather to waft the essential oils up into the corners and nooks and crannies of each room. So you're going to go throughout your house, starting at the front door, going through the living spaces, and going through all of your floors of your home, wherever you are, and finding your way all the way back to the front door, so that this smoke is, you don't have to really smoke yourself out, but just really get it up in there. If you don't want to use smoke or essential oils, you can go through the room with a bell. Let me grab my bell. One of my bells, I got this nice little Buddha bell, and you can just ring your Buddha bell all through each room. That also does a lot to clear like stagnant energy and kind of just, vibe up the space just a little bit. Or if you don't have a bell, this is the great thing about, doing these kinds of things, is you use what you have. So hopefully you have two hands, and you just clap through every space and just sort of get that energy kind of vibing, moving, clearing, right? Just kind of send those ripples out there. And that's pretty much it. Music is also really great for cleansing spaces energetically, as long as it can be any kind of music, but in general, you want something that's uplifting or kind of light and high vibe, if you know what I mean. Then we're going to cleanse with light. So taking a heat-proof dish with your candle, your white candle, I want you to light it and then go through your home, offering the white light to each room in your home, every little nook and cranny. And as you're going through each room of your home, intend this white light to protect and purify your space, but also think about what you do in each room. Like what kind of vibe do you want to have happening in the bedroom? What kind of vibe do you want to have happening in the living area? Like that is what you are intending and what you're bringing into your home with these little practices here. And then when you're done, you can take that candle and let it burn out someplace safe, like on your stovetop, or if it's a small candle, maybe on your altar while you're meditating a little bit later. Don't leave candles unattended. And also with these sage bundles, don't use the little abalone shell that they're usually sold with a little shell, and it's really pretty, and you put the incense, or you put the sage in the shell and walk it around the house. Don't use that shell for that. Use your shell for water blessing rituals and things like that. It will burn, and there are holes in those shells, so some pieces of ash could get through those little holes. But honestly, if you put a hot piece of sage onto an abalone shell, the abalone shell will start on fire. You just trust me on that one, okay? So be very, very safe when using these, but it's not a big deal if you use common sense, right? Then we are going to protect our home energetically. So again, this is just creating intention and sending out vibes. So I want you to take that salt water, if it's in a mystery spray bottle, or if it's just in a bowl of water, and sprinkle it around, focusing on windows and doors. So sprinkling this salt water, salt is very purifying and protecting, and you're intending that your home is protected from unwanted visitors, pop-ins, from negative energy, bad mojo, whatever it is. And back in the day when the origin of the jack-o'-lantern, they used to, in Europe, they would use like turnips or other kinds of root vegetables because they didn't have pumpkins. Pumpkins are an American thing. But they would carve up their little vegetables and then stick them in the windows to scare off the spooks, or light the little candles so that, they knew somebody was home or something like that. Whatever it was, we're taking that to another level and just asking for home protection. Do you believe in spirits and things like that? Maybe. I don't know. I believe in everything until it's said to be not true. So who am I to say that, they're not out there? And I'll go a step further and say, they are. But don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just intend that, only only those who are made welcome are actually coming to the next step of this. So if you want to add some protection symbols like acorns or a nice little old-fashioned skeleton key, I have one hanging on our key rack to give a little protection vibe, and I've got some acorns in a dish downstairs right by the front door that I gathered actually from our front yard. So whatever it makes you feel like, okay, house is protected. And then go ahead and on your altar, put any kind of protective, any kind of crystals, herbs, or other symbols that you see fit. If you can see my altar back here, I have my meditation altar. I have altars all over the house, but this is my meditation altar where I sit and do like my visualization, my law of attraction, and my seasonal things. And I have some grounding crystals there for the season. I have some rose hips that I picked out of the forest one time when we were camping. I've got some hops that I harvested out of a friend's yard that I'm going to make some winter teas with and things. I've got some leaves. I've got some essential oils burning and a candle and some salt and some moon water. So that's just sort of my little setup. And I sit there and let me give you a little better glimpse of it. And I sit, oops, there goes the feather. And I sit right here and I do my meditation, and I have some little trinkets and things and some books and whatever. And that's just my space. And you can make that space, your meditation altar space, any way that you want. So add the little things and make it your own. And then we're going to add the ancestor bits to it. So I actually do have, I mentioned how my kind of dining table is sort of my ancestor altar, but I do have a little picture of me here at my grandmother's farm with some old agates and things that were my grandmother's. She loved collecting rocks and agates and things. So that kind of gives me a little bit of my, ancestor vibe down there. And it's, whatever you see fit. And then you can also give offerings. So if I were going to honor one of my grandmothers, maybe it would be cinnamon rolls, that I would put a little cinnamon roll on a plate there as an offering. Or maybe if, your grandma loved to drink a certain, hot beverage or glass of wine or whatever grandma's favorite thing was, the Manischewitz or the Mogen David, whatever the old people wine, old people church wine. You don't have to use something that you don't like, but we're kind of setting the place for our ancestors to come and enjoy a little something with us. So whatever that might have been, and yes, store-bought is fine. What is that joke from Ina Garten? If you can't summon the flames of hell on your own, store-bought is fine. And she's wearing a little witch hat. It's super cute. So make it fun. And a lot of traditions on Halloween, you would have the ancestor thing where you would have the supper and you'd place a plate at the table for your loved one or loved ones who had passed and maybe put their picture there and maybe serve them up too. And that's, you're just honoring their place in your life, even though they may have passed on. What stays with you is the love and the lessons learned and the inspiration and all that good stuff. So then light your candle in the remaining color, whatever color you have, for your ancestor, and then reminisce, speak to them. Tell them how much you miss them. Tell them how much you remember them. Tell them your favorite thing. Tell them what's been going on. Update them. It's really important to continue to touch in. Our society kind of tries to tell us that when someone passes on, you need to get over it. Give yourself a grieving moment. And then when your grandpa died when you were 9 is kind of in the same bucket of grief that, when my cat died when I was 42. Like, it's the same feeling and the same, but you can still embrace it and work with it and learn from it. This doesn't have to be a sad thing. It might be touching. It might be emotional, it might be slightly uncomfortable for just a moment. But when you relax and acknowledge that death is just a transition, it's not really the ending that we give it. It's final in some ways, but so not final in others. And really learn to embrace that. And I think that's what our ancestors were doing with the Halloween idea of, let's embrace this idea of death and face it head on and maybe make a little light of it and interact with it rather than death doesn't exist. In our society, death happens behind closed doors and, it's not part of polite conversation that much. And when somebody dies, we have the funeral and then it's kind of hush hush a little bit. You don't bring them up a lot, or if you do, it's with tons of grief and you never really get over it and you're obsessed about it. We're not, we're just touching in every once in a while and giving ourselves that little reminder that that person is not really gone and that they live on through us. And then finally, once you set all this up, you have to activate your altar. You can't just put a bunch of nice things on a little something and then go, well, isn't that nice? And then never sit in front of it or do anything with it. You really need to interact with it. So sit in front of your altar and just look at the things that you've collected. Maybe you start reminiscing. Maybe you start talking to your ancestor or another deity that's important to you. Meditation is listening. Prayer is speaking, and it's all ways of connecting with the divine. And, maybe you go to church and you connect with the divine, but I have a feeling that you get a little distracted when you're in church. If you make your own sacred space and sit in front of it, no matter what it's about or what it's for, this one's for ancestors and the end of the season, you get a little bit more from it, I think. You do not have to be in church to feel spiritual. That said, nature is my church, so I feel spiritual whenever I step outside my door. And honestly, I bring nature into my home with me. I've got juniper branches over there. I always am bringing in flowers or other kinds of seasonal things that I find on my walks. We bring in crystals and things like that when we go and get outside, and agates and things from the rivers and stuff. Whatever it is, touch into it. And then really, really know that you are blessed and that you're protected, and that in invoking these older traditions of your ancestors who probably were maybe from that more frugal era of save your pennies and work real hard. I'm not saying that we have to be penny pinchers or workhorses. No. But some of those lessons we can definitely carry through and attract abundance and be thankful for what we have. That is what this last of the harvest festivals is all about. For those of you who follow a pagan calendar, harvest season started on August 1st with Lammas. And that is the first where we start picking some of the fruits of our garden, right? And then we move into the autumn equinox, Mabon, on September 21st, where there's, all the things are starting to come out of the garden and it's time to really reap in that harvest. And now Halloween, 6 weeks later, so over the last 12 weeks, this is our third harvest celebration, and this is where we pull in the last of it. If it's going to get harvested, it's got to get harvested now for the Northern Hemisphere, of course. And if you're already living where I live, we had a couple of feet of snow over the last week. So gardens are done. OVER, right? And now we take in what we've harvested and really give thanks for it and really meditate on all of the blessings and intend for many, many blessings in the new year to come. And if you are following a pagan calendar, Halloween is the ending of one year and the beginning of a new year. So we start the new year with the first festival of light in Christmas, Yule, whatever you want to call it. And that will be the next major holiday. But until then, we still have another harvest festival, Thanksgiving, which is kind of like a modern insertion into our yearly calendar, where it's the big harvest celebration. It doesn't matter when we celebrate these things. We should be grateful all year round. But this little kind of routine, this little ritual, you can modify this, doesn't have to be about ancestors. It could be about attracting something for the future. It could be about blessing a pet or a child. It could be about asking to win the lottery, like whatever. Like, this is a basic framework for you to just do some really easy practices to engage yourself with the season, engage yourself emotionally, spiritually, and energetically. All right. So that's all I have for you today. I hope that you join me next time. I will not be doing a Wellness Wednesday next week, as I feel like we all need a little break after the full moon, blue moon on Halloween, and then 3 days later, something even scarier. Hold your hats, kids. It's the election. And so I'm going to take the next Wellness Wednesday off. And you do it too. Just settle back in and be very, very patient and know that everything is working out on a scale that it needs to happen. And if it's not in alignment with what you wanted, maybe there's a reason for that. And to keep on working towards the greater good and the bigger picture. All right. So until next time, where I'm going to talk about, it will be November 11th on Wellness Wednesday. I will be talking about how to stay happy and relaxed through the holiday rush. It's totally possible. And I'll show you how. Yeah, it's the holiday season. So take in this last of the harvest festivals. Really, really enjoy this time. Take great care of yourself, and I will see you on the 11th. Thanks for joining me.